Let's speak to Scott Lucas, who joins us live from Birmingham here in the UK, Professor of International Politics at Birmingham University. Scott, good to have you with us. You know, it's hard to see why the US doesn't seem concerned about the optics of all this. They've got a high-profile delegation. There's Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner opening up their new embassy in Jerusalem. The Israeli Prime Minister declaring it's a great day. And then pretty close by, unarmed protesters being shot dead in Gaza. It's an extremely stark contrast.
Well, the reason is because the Trump administration, if not American officials, and the Trump family are all in with Israel. It's no secret that Donald Trump has been very pro-Israeli. His ambassador to Israel is a close New York friend who has supported Israeli settlements in the West Bank. His son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is very much pro-Israeli and was there at the ceremony yesterday. So, in other words, the idea that the United States is still neutral or could be a broker between Israel and Palestine, that's gone. Wherever this heads, and it is likely to head to more confrontation rather than talks, the Trump administration will stand with the Israelis, and so they will support the Israeli line that what happened yesterday was not due to the Israeli forces. It was due to Hamas whipping up Palestinians, specifically those in Gaza, that Israel is not to blame for this. It will double down on the move to Jerusalem, despite the fact that this sets aside 70 years of Jerusalem being an international city. In other words, we are having lines being drawn up in this conflict at whichever level it goes in terms of the confrontation, and Trump and Israel are now hand in hand.
And you have all this international condemnation. We've seen it from France, even from US allies, Saudi Arabia, about the Palestinians being shot dead and the claims of disproportionate use of force. For President Trump, though, is this just all water off a duck's back? Does he only care about the opinions domestically, his core support base?
Well, as much as Donald Trump knows about Israel, it simply is that Benjamin Netanyahu is a great guy. The Israelis are America's friend. You can't trust a lot of Arabs. And that's as far as it goes. So these calculations you're talking about with others doesn't matter. The Europeans, I think, are seen by the Israeli government and indeed by those around Trump as being fairly ineffectual. So why worry about them? Saudi Arabia might condemn the violence. However, Saudi Arabia has quietly been in talks with the Israelis on a number of issues. The Saudis are very close to Jared Kushner, so the gamble is the Saudis will not break from the U.S. on this. So at this point, apart from the fact that there are a lot of Palestinians getting killed, it's a no-lose strategy for the Trump administration.
There is going to be shortly a UN Security Council meeting. We know already that the US is going to veto a draft resolution which is being proposed by Kuwait asking for an investigation into the shooting of Palestinian civilians. When it comes to the Security Council, Israel can always count on US support. Therefore, can the Security Council do anything about the situation?
No. I mean, the Security Council was already paralyzed on another issue, the Syrian conflict, because you can always count on Russia to veto any effective action. Now you just flip it. The United States will not go as far as to open up any light that could possibly criticize the Israelis. Nikki Haley, I suspect, being a very forthright person, the U.S. ambassador, will blame Hamas, will say that Hamas is responsible for the violence. So we will have a lot of posturing. But the fact of the matter is that no one has any power right now. No one has any power to do anything to stop whatever is done at that border. All you can hope is that the Israeli security forces just stop firing live ammunition.
A former Pentagon official, Ilan Goldberg, has said, traditionally, the US has tried to play the role of fireman in the Middle East. Now we're playing the role of arsonist. You said earlier that the US is no longer a neutral mediator. Does that mean it has no credentials left whatsoever as a peace negotiator between Israel and the Palestinians?
Well, to be honest, I think for many in the Arab and Muslim world, the U.S. long ago gave up any credentials. But at least until the early years of the Obama administration, we had the idea that the U.S. could pursue a mediation effort. That's gone now. But remember, this takes place in a wider context. We're not just talking about Israel-Palestine. We're talking about the U.S. lining up with Saudi Arabia, lining up with the Israelis against Iran, because there are certain hardliners in the American administration, such as John Bolton, the new National Security Advisor. And the idea is, why negotiate? Why talk? You can push the Iranians into a corner. You can push Hezbollah into a corner. You can push Palestinians around as much as you want to. That's going to be the line. Any pretense that was made yesterday by Jared Kushner that the U.S. is a force for peace, that's all talk and no action now.
So, I mean, is there a peace process left? Is there a two-state solution, given that we saw Benjamin Netanyahu saying Jerusalem is the undivided capital of Israel, the U.S. Embassy is now there, Guatemala and Paraguay are following suit. I know that other countries are unlikely to do so, but it seems like there is a momentum that started there, which doesn't bode well for any Palestinian hopes of an independent state.
Well, again, let's call the lack of a peace process for what it is. Since 2010, when President Obama's envoy, George Mitchell, was undercut by others within the White House, let alone by the Israelis, there's been no serious effort at advancing talks. There was some posturing by John Kerry that didn't go very far. And that is because Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel does not want talks with the Palestinians that could lead to a Palestinian state. He will encourage Palestinian economic development, but that will continue to be under the oversight of the Israeli military with very limited political arrangements for the Palestinians.
I apologize for breaking in. We're going to have to go live to the United Nations. That Security Council meeting I mentioned now underway. That was Scott Lucas in Birmingham there.